My name is Jerry Silverman, and I'm a senior solutions consultant. I've got a beautiful little slide here that will introduce me and my beautiful face. One of the things that I usually start off when I introduce myself is talking about the certifications that I've done, because a lot of customers that I talk to ask, how can I actually get training? How can I get certified? How can I add that certification to my resume? And so I'm happy to talk. I don't want to take up time right off the bat during our presentation, because I want to get into the technology. But I'm happy to discuss that kind of offline, and I'm going to drop my email address towards the end. Feel free. You have questions about anything you see. You want to go a little bit further in depth, then that. I'm happy to talk to you guys. So just a couple of setup slides to get us started down the CS5 and CS5.5 path, because I know that's where you guys are. We kind of took that new mobile revolution that's been happening across the technology industry right now, and kind of geared the CS5.5 release towards those trends. We wanted to enable our customers to have best-in-breed creative solutions that would address all the considerations around mobile and tablet publishing. So the first thing that we're going to look at today is what's going on inside of the video tools, inside of Premiere Pro, AfterEffects, Audition, Encore, and really kind of have a look at some of the performance enhancements and some of the storytelling tools that are going to help you guys. We're also going to have a look, once we're kind of made our little prototype video and encoded it for multiple platforms and gotten it out there, we're going to look at Dreamweaver and some of the enhancements that we put into the CS5.5 release for being able to preview for multiple screens, for being able to publish your HTML5 and CSS3 out to multiple devices, and also being able to export your websites as apps that can be launched on mobile devices as well. We're going to talk a little bit about HTML5, what that means versus HTML4 or HTML anything, and why that might be important, especially in terms of getting out to as many devices as possible, and having stuff like video come through on stuff like the iPad, iPhone, and devices that don't support Flash. And then, of course, we're going to talk a little bit. We're not going to go too deep into InDesign, because that wasn't an initial requirement. And I'm happy to provide some follow-up around if you're looking to make digital magazines, digital publications, ebooks, and stuff like that. Although I didn't quite get that list of requirements from Leanne, but it's definitely something we can go into further exploration with at a later time. Really around creating digital publications, media, and delivering to multiple screens, I wanted to show you what we've innovated in Flash Professional CS5.5 for publishing out not only to Android and iOS, but for getting to all those different screen densities and screen sizes in kind of a unified project, and sharing assets between projects, and kind of optimizing that workflow for creating mobile experiences using Flash and Air. Another thing that you may have seen, just really quickly, I wasn't planning on showing this, but I can definitely talk about it if there's interest, is the Digital Publishing Suite, which is a new product that Adobe has put out that allows you to take your layouts that you might create using Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign, and publish them out directly to a magazine-like experience on a tablet with a lot of different engaging, interactive features, without having to do any programming, write any code, or otherwise know a lot about the native operating system of the iPad or the Android tablets or anything like that. It's got that pixel precision that you kind of come to expect from coming out from InDesign, and it has a lot of features around adjusting to the device orientation and providing touch interfaces that I think are really compelling. The first place we're going to start is Production Premium and in Premiere Pro. So since we're over Connect, and I neglected to upload my video beforehand, into the Connect pod. I'm just going to show you really quick that I've got just a simple, if you're not familiar with Premiere, it looks pretty much like any other nonlinear editing system. You've got your project panel, which has all of the different assets that you would import. It has your source monitor right here, so that if I wanted to come in and grab something from my project panel, and I wanted to double-click and just look at it very quickly, I could see it right in there. So what you're seeing is this is a video of me at Redstone, at the Redstone Arsenal at the U.S. Space and Missile Center that I just shot with. Had my Nikon D7000 DSLR, and it was handheld. I didn't have any cameraman or anything. I was shooting at 1280 by 720 in MP4 with pretty high resolution video, and Premiere was just able to dump it straight on into the bin and straight on into the timeline without any transcoding or rewrapping, and that's kind of nice. The consideration that allows us to kind of dump any native footage in from anywhere is because of what's called the Mercury playback engine, and that's a native 64-bit playback utility that just runs and allows you just blistering performance on 64-bit systems. So that's something to consider. It's 64-bit only, so if you're going to be running Premiere Pro CS5 or CS5.5, you need to have a 64-bit system, and it's always good to have a lot of RAM. I'm happy if you guys are looking to kind of set up a good, better, best type of machine. We have resources that I can send to you guys about what Adobe recommends in terms of hardware and software setup. But I'm just running this on a laptop. It's a Mac laptop with 8 gigs of RAM. Yep, that's exactly what I have right now. And so you'll see, it's kind of hard to see via Connect over the internet, but as I play this back, we get really buttery playback. And when I say buttery, I mean it's really great and very smooth. And so what I'm showing you right now is just one clip on one layer of a timeline with just the Adobe logo, which is a PSD file, and a little lower third here. But I could layer this on 5, 7, 9 layers just here in software rendering mode. Now, if your machine is better than mine, and you're all on MacBooks and iMacs, okay. So, in some MacBooks and iMacs, you can actually install like a pretty rockin' video card, an NVIDIA GeForce or Quadro card. And I don't know if there's anyone at your org who would do that or could set that up, but once that's set up, you could actually come into your project settings in the general panel, and you'd see that you could set up hardware rendering, and that would give you even better performance and playback when, you could probably stack 20 or 30 streams of real-time HD, not 720p, but like 1080p, and it would just slice through them like a hot knife through butter. And yep, that could be something that someone in your organization needs. Again, I'm happy to pass you along that document. So a few things that you'll notice about these clips, one of which is that it's a little bit shaky because I've got it with a handheld device. I'm shooting it with just holding the DSLR in my hand. And you'll also notice that in this clip, there's a little bit, and I'm just going to turn my volume up a little bit. I'm going to mute my phone, turn my volume up so that you can hear. Hopefully you'll be able to hear. There's a little bit of audio glitching going on in this clip. So you probably can't hear it as part of this demo, so I'm sorry about that. But it sounded like there's like some kind of pine cone falling behind me in this second clip. So we want to make sure, one of the reasons that a lot of video editors after the announcement of Final Cut 10 have started looking at Premiere, one of which is this 64-bit native support for all different types of file formats and no native, it's all native, there's no transcoding, no rewrapping of any video, but they also really like this dynamic link integration between Premiere and AfterEffects and Audition and Encore, all the different, places along the way. So what I'm going to do is first just grab this clip on the timeline. And again, it's pretty darn easy to create a sequence. This sequence happens to be suited to this footage. But if I come in here and I had another piece of footage that was another resolution and say I wanted to create a new sequence that suited that resolution instead, I could just right-click and say new sequence from clip. Let's say this was a red file at 4,000K, 4K or 4,000 pixels across. I could just create a new sequence from clip, and it would dump that sequence right here on my timeline, dump the clip into the sequence, and I would see that sequence pop up in my bin or in my project folder right here. And I just happen to have organized this into folders. That's kind of just how I roll. And so here are all of the different sequences that I put together for this project, which is why we call it the project panel and not the not the bin, because we have individual bins. Each one of these folders is a bin, and so what I can do is kind of take this sequences bin and just pull it up here into the interface. So now I'm just kind of dumping it between, and now it's a docked panel inside of my larger project panel. Another thing that's really useful inside of Premiere Pro, you'll notice as I roll over, although it's not showing it to me right now, as I roll over, I can hit the tilde key or the little Enye key, and that'll make each one of my panels full frame. So I'm just hitting tilde. That's a keyboard shortcut that a lot of editors really like, is to make anything. So if I wanted to look at my project bin, I could just hit the tilde key and bring that right in. We also have down here the media browser, which, as you can see, I've got a right? Yeah, I really like that keyboard shortcut. So right now I've got my hard drive. I'm right now in my media browser panel, and I'm only showing this to you because I actually have my Motorola Atrix phone. It's an Android phone, currently connected via USB to my laptop. And if I just kind of burrow down in here inside of the camera, I can see in real time in the media panel, I'll just hit tilde to kind of make this bigger, I can see all of the different video clips that are in here. So let's see, I think this is of my kid's piano recital. I just double click this, and so here is, well, you know what, I don't like that clip. Let me kind of come in. That's a little bit more of a blurrier clip. So this is my kid's piano recital from yesterday. There she is. And this is a little bit different, right? The properties of this are different than the 720p. It's a completely different type of footage, but all I have to do is pull down from the source panel and just pull it into, and remember, I haven't copied this to my hard drive yet. This is just playing directly off of my phone right now. And so if you have a USB key that you just need to drop a sequence into, you can do that really easily. And now if I right-click and I get the properties, right? I guess you could consider it. It's a professional tool. I'm just showing you how to use it in a more consumer type of fashion to make it a little bit easier. GarageBand is also more geared towards audio, and we're going to be looking at the audio tool in just a sec. Okay. So as you can see, this is 1280 by 720, so I didn't have to rescale it at all, but it's a different frame rate. But as you can see, it's going to, we're going to be able to play those different frame rates, one frame rate to another frame rate, pretty much identically. Premiere Pro doesn't need us to reorient our sequence in order to understand those two different frame rates playing in the same sequence. And if it were a different resolution, it would automatically either upscale or downscale to fit the dimensions of the current sequence. So that's really nice. And again, I'm playing this right off of my drive. If I had another USB drive, it would just pull it right off. Any phone or something like that, you could do that. So just to show you the advantages of having the media browser right in there, kind of in context to the application. It's a nice consideration. So like I said, we have a couple of considerations here. That's our audio and metadata panels as well. I'm just going to close this out for now. We have a couple of considerations in this clip, one of which is the fact that it's handheld, and so it's a little bit jumpy, right? You can see it's kind of, I need to smooth out that or stabilize that that camera shake a little bit. And also in this clip, you can't hear it, but I'm going to show it to you in an audio waveform where there's some pieces that we want to take out. So the first thing I'm going to do with this clip that we want to stabilize is I'm going to unlink it. So that's going to mean that I can address the audio and video separately. And you can actually see that I've run some speech-to-text analysis on this clip, right? So we're here in Huntsville, the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. It's getting a little hot today, so I'm just looking at all these wonderful machines, right? So if I go through and I play this clip, you'll notice, hold on a sec. Right, I'm going to go through and play this clip, and it should be following. Notice how the audio is actually following the speech-to-text transcription. I'm looking at all of these. Right, yes, it is good, says Leanne, to help with the closed captioning stuff. I will tell you that it's good when the audio is good, description. I'm looking at all of these. Right, yes, it is good, says Leanne, to help with the closed captioning stuff. I will tell you that it's good when the audio is good. When the audio is bad, it's kind of crummy. I mean, you'll probably find that with most speech-to-text transcription services. That if there's a whole lot of distortion in the back. So yeah, I just ran that on this clip, and here's a little, here's the Analyze button, which allows you to run that speech-to-text. And this is going to be important kind of down the line, not only for metadata search, because now if I were to come in, let's see, one of the points of metadata in here is Huntsville. So if I come into Bridge and I'm searching through this folder, let's say I wanted to do an edit find, and I'm looking at the folder with this footage in here, right? So I'm looking for all metadata contains not sassafras, but Huntsville, and I click find, it's going to find that file that has that speech-to-text metadata inside of it. That's really nice. If you go through and run speech-to-text, see there's that clip right there, and I can actually play it back right here inside of Bridge, right? Same clip that has that metadata. And of course, I could go into File Info and actually go into the Advanced tab of the File Info, or in the raw, let's see, yeah, Advanced, and come down and get the dynamic media properties and burrow down. It would show you exactly where that speech-to-text metadata is located. And I don't want to take the time to do that right now, but it's just to show you that metadata stays with your clip when you run that analysis. It enters the XMP metadata space, so it's searchable. If you have this file on an archive and you want to search on the speech, you can do that, and so that's really useful. But let's go ahead and actually stabilize out this clip. I'm going to right-click, and stabilization is not something that we do in Premiere. We actually do it in AfterEffects. So I'm going to right-click and just replace this clip with an AfterEffects composition. So it's actually going to ask me to save out this composition. So I'm going to save it in the DEA video folder and call it DEA for now. And now we've kind of invisibly kicked over. I had AfterEffects open. We've kicked over into AfterEffects, right? And notice that all of those speech-to-text metadata points have become, in the timeline, those are now little chapter markers. If you are an AfterEffects scripter, you could actually target those markers for certain things to happen. So notice in the timeline, all of those cool metadata markers have come right over as chapter markers, right? So now that we have our clip here in AfterEffects, the effect that we want to choose is called the Warp Stabilizer. This is new in CS5.5. But, I mean, who the heck knows? Here's my Effects and Presets pane over here in AfterEffects. And, I can hit tilde also to open that up full screen. But how am I supposed to find, what is it in Expression Controls, Generate, Matte? I mean, where the heck is the stabilizer? So I don't actually even need to know. I can just, in my Effects and Presets panel, I can just type in STAB, and let's see. Stab, and there's my warp. I don't want color stabilization. I want warp stabilization, right? So let me come on back down here. And with my clip selected in the on the After Effects timeline, I can just double-click, and it just starts doing that analysis. And it'll give me a little, in my Effect Controls panel over here on the left, it'll give me a progress report, and I also get all of the different parameters. So if, for example, there happens to be a lot of rolling shutter ripple, which can happen, it happens a lot with mobile devices, is that your hand kind of jerks, and that creates this, this very kind of noticeable distortion in the video. So you'd be able right here to, do enhanced reduction or automatic reduction. Do you want the cropping out of the stabilized piece to be more or less? Do you want it to smooth? And so in just a few seconds, we've stabilized this clip. Of course, it's not a very long clip, and it's 720p, but I'm just going to scrub this through, and you'll notice that it really does not look like I was holding it by hand anymore, right? It really looks very smooth, like more like a Steadicam shot than a handheld shot. And so the nice part of this dynamic link between After Effects and Premiere is when I jump back into Premiere Pro, that clip is updated. You notice there was a little bit of a bump there. That clip has now been updated with the with that After Effects composition that is a little bit smoother. And what's happened is we've lost that transition since we switched out. Was a nice little cross dissolve between these two clips, but we've lost that because we switched out our initial clip with this next clip. So it's good when that's a good thing to know when you're using dynamic link, is that you want to try and do those dynamic links first as you're editing before you actually add the transitions between your clips, unless you have a templated way of redoing any of those transitions. But to add those transitions is actually really easy. I can just come into Effects, and just like in After Effects, I can type in, I know I want to do a cross dissolve, and so I just put in cross. There's my cross dissolve. I can just drag it right to that spot between the two clips, and it doesn't seem to want to go right there, maybe because I don't have enough headroom on this clip here. Let's see.
They're not locked from editing, are they?
No.
Okay.
Yep. That's interesting. All right. Well, yeah, it seems to be doing the trick. I mean, another trick that I could do is just add another video layer, right, or just drag this up to a separate video layer, right? Now drag it back. I mean, there's a whole lot of kind of bootleg ways. You can choose your favorite technique for how you'd accomplish this, but I can now drag that into that layer, maybe boot this out a little bit more. Well, I guess it's not going to go. All right, extend it, and now I drag my cross dissolve. And of course, I can double click on the cross dissolve and kind of shorten that down as well in my effect controls. That didn't work because it needed to be on the layer beneath it. I don't want to belabor it. You're probably experienced video editors and can figure this stuff out on your own. Yeah. But this part of the demo was to show about that dynamic link between After Effects and Premiere. And I wanted to also show you the dynamic link between After Effects and Audition, which is really great. Notice, by the way, that our Huntsville, that our After Effects composition came directly into our project bin, and so we can create a folder for that as well. So let's head on back into how much does Premiere and After Effects cross over? Can you clarify that question?
Yeah, it just meant like, is there a lot of effects that you can do in one that you can also do in the other, or is there should you be using one over the other for most of the effects?
Well, the difference between Premiere and After Effects is really, do you want to be doing extremely high-end graphics, or do you just want to be kind of like throwing it together? Like, for example, what I'm using right now, this simple transition of my lower third in and out, like there's no reason to animate that lower third in After Effects, right? Okay. Premiere Pro, to just add simple easing, to be using simple graphics. I mean, this actually, I downloaded this from Resource Central, so that's another one of these panels here. And so I actually went into the government. You have to be online in order to use this, but I have a government preset inside Resource Central, which just basically gives me lower thirds and slates and all that stuff.
Oh, cool.
This might as well be an Illustrator file or a Photoshop file. This right here is a Photoshop file that I brought in. So for slapping bugs, lower thirds, slates, and stuff like that, there's absolutely no reason to use After Effects.
Okay.
But for doing high-end composition, I mean, you can also, I can show you another kind of more professional project in Premiere that that uses compositing. Like, in other words, it's green screen type of stuff. And so you can do a pretty decent green screen in Premiere as well. It's using the keying technology called Ultra Key.
Oh, okay. Versus
and
Chroma.
So there's some pretty nice, pretty granular keying and garbage matting that you can do. But I mean, if you want to get down to the the wispy little hairs, After Effects is going to provide the keying, and After Effects is going to be that much more intense. After Effects also is going to do particles. It's that you can. There's a whole scripting language behind After Effects. There is 3D capabilities.
Ooh.
Bringing your 3D models. There's motion tracking in After Effects. I mean, I'll show you. One more. I have another demo that I'll show you that will kind of show you how After Effects is better used in Premiere. But I want to show you this dynamic link to Audition first. So let's suffice to say this clip here. There's two ways of visualizing the clip. There's the waveform view that you're seeing here, which everybody's used to in tools like Pro Tools and everywhere else. But what Audition, one of the nice features of Audition is that it gives you a spectral waveform view as well. And one of the reasons that spectral waveform view is important is to see where there are issues. So as I was recording, this clip over here in Premiere, where I'm talking, so you can see there's trees around me by Space Camp, and so there's a pine cone that kind of dropped. And so right there, you can actually see in the spectral view where that pine cone drops. But if I wanted to remove that pine cone drop, it actually occurred while I was speaking. And so if I wanted to get rid of that, I could kind of come into the waveform view and make a little, just burrow in, hit plus, 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 and really burrow down into there and remove it. But the problem is I would actually be getting rid of my voice data, and I'd be truncating the length of this video clip at the same time. So how do we actually get rid of the sound without getting rid of the surrounding audio and truncating the audio? And so the way that we do that is down here in the spectral waveform view, I would come up, and you might notice that there are certain tools up here like the marquee, the lasso, the paintbrush, the spot healing brush, right? So these are familiar from Photoshop and stuff like that. If I come in and grab my spot healing brush and I can scale my brush up and down, notice that I can just kind of paint over that pine cone drop, and now it disappears, and I haven't truncated my audio, and I haven't, unfortunately you can't hear the difference, but I basically just painted that problem off of the audio, right? That pine cone is no longer there, but my voice keeps going. So sorry that you guys can't really hear it over Connect, but you just have to take my word for it. It works pretty great. And you can work this on projects big and small. There's a lot of other things in Audition, but I want to keep going because we still have Dreamweaver and Flash to do. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit and open up a different project that is a little bit more advanced, right? So, and this is to show you another thing that you should be doing in After Effects besides high-end compositing and, kind of those very sophisticated graphics, right? So here is, let me see, this is a 7-layer sequence. Again, this guy was shot on a green screen, and so if we grab him and look at the effects controls, notice we have some motion, some opacity, some time remapping, and here's that Ultra key that I was telling you about, and I can toggle that effect on and off just by turning. So you can see he was shot on a green screen, and we used the Ultra key technology to kind of go through and use the eyedropper to get rid of that green color that we had. And you've got a lot of controls in terms of, creating your garbage matte, creating your regular matte, setting the transparency, the highlight, the tolerance, cleaning up your garbage matte, doing color correction. Premiere is actually, and the Ultra Keyer is pretty robust. Now this is 7 layers, and I'm just playing this back in software rendering mode. Let's see how it plays. You won't be able to see this smooth performance via Connect, but on my machine, I am going to quit my Google notification and play this back, and it really does play back well. Now, if your machine starts stuttering with it because you've got, all of these are 1080p, and it really is a lot for software rendering mode only, you can actually right-click and put your playback resolution from full to half, and that will improve the performance while giving you real-time playback, and that's nice. So let's say we didn't have the luxury of a green screen, but we still wanted to be able to take somebody off of a background, and this is really where AfterEffects is going to help you out a lot. So here's a scene, right? This guy, this medieval knight, he's kind of lit from behind, and so it's not really, I don't want to spend all the time rotoscoping him or doing motion tracking on him. I really just want to take the background off, and I'm sure you can imagine points where you don't have a green screen, you want to do this. So first of all, let's go ahead and unlink these one more time. And now I'm just going to go ahead and do a dynamic link into AfterEffects again. So we would need to adjust the pixel aspect ratio in order to be able to see it. But now when I kind of burrow down into this composition, I am really just going to use one tool, and it's called the Roto brush tool up here on the upper left-hand side. So I can drag over the edges, and as you can see, I have to be really super careful with how I drag. Oh, wow, I'm just, taking a lot of time here to make sure that everything's really clean and neat. And once I've got pretty much the selection I want, notice that AfterEffects has done that snapping to edges. And so all I have to do is press the space bar, right? Richie Rich is happy, so that's good. I hit the space bar, and we're basically just compositing this guy off of the background. Now, of course, it's not going to be perfect, right? We're still missing, on a few frames, AfterEffects might not grab every single aspect of everything that you want. So you can just add as it goes along, but this will save you hours. And again, it's one of those things that AfterEffects does that none of the other, that Premiere is not going to help you with. And again, since this is dynamically linked, we can come back into Premiere, and in real time, we can see how that compositing, well, when you say better than, well, yeah, it's better than Photoshop because it's 30 frames a second. Right, so now you can see right here how that's going to look on any particular background, and you can adjust all of the effect settings over here in the effect controls to make sure that your matte is a little bit smoother, you're feathering it. You can come in and refine your matte. Yes. Well, it's just like, Rich, it's like it is in Photoshop. Leanne, you got to be kidding me. Are you for real? That is totally in Photoshop. It's called the Quick Select tool. You guys haven't seen the Quick Select tool? My God, hold on. I've got to switch gears for a second and show you the Quick Select tool. Of course, wait, is Leanne serious? Like you really have not seen this in Photoshop, or are you just pulling my leg? I'm waiting for my little message down here to let me know if you're joking. No, I guess not. All right, I've seen it, but never. Right? It never works well. Oh, well, that's a different conversation. But for those who have not seen it, I mean, I'll just show you really quick. Oh, geez, I don't even know. Let me just open really quick. Yeah, if you say it works better in here than Photoshop, then I'll believe you. But let me just open up really quick. A quick demo asset in Photoshop. Let's see. Hold on, I want to get a preview of what these look like. Right, so this is in Photoshop CS5. And maybe, Leanne, I can give you a tip that'll help you make it work better in Photoshop. So here's, right, one of the reasons that you might feel that it doesn't work well is that you never get that, those hairs, right? Like if you use the Quick Select tool and you come in, this is the Quick Select tool, by the way, same as the, healing brush or any of that other, the Roto brush in AfterEffects. So hopefully you guys know about this tip to scale your brushes up and down, but it's Control-Alt or Control-Option. And if I drag up, that'll feather the brush. If I hold down Control-Alt and I click and drag right to left, that will scale my brush up and down. So that's instead of using the bracket keys. That's a good to have. And then Command-0 to come out. So with the Quick Select brush, I'm just going to brush over to get the marching ants on this lady, right? But of course, we are missing a whole lot of that fine detail in her hair. I'm getting some comments here that I'm not seeing. Hold on a second. Let me come back in. Right, let's see. Works better in here than Photoshop. All right, so hold on a sec. Let me come back to Photoshop. So you see that we've got a lot of the detail here, but we're missing some of the critical stuff in the hair. Right, we're missing those fine, wispy bits of hair. So how do we go about actually remedying this situation? Let me make the brush a little bit smaller. Oops, that's not good. All right, so let's click the Refine Edge tool. And so now we can see our selection on black. And in this new Refine Edge dialog, if I click Edge Detection Smart Radius, right, so I want Photoshop to be smart about the radius around all of the different selection points. So if I start bumping that up, you're going to notice what starts happening with our selection of the hair. Right? Hopefully you guys can see this via Connect. Notice that we start getting those wispy, fine pieces of hair that we never got before. But we're not getting all of them, and we want to get even more detailed. So let's pull out our Refined Radius tool in the Refine Edge dialog. And again, this is the same idea. We can scale the brush up and down, right? Make the hardness and softness a little bit. All right, let's make that a little smaller like that. And now we can make sure that we're getting all these fine little hairs just by painting over. And notice that now we've selected those hairs on that side. Let's get the hairs over here on this side. Right, we're doing a pretty darn good job without a lot of effort. However, one of the things that you'll probably notice is that we're not getting the red out of her hair, right? So that red contamination, that color contamination, is something that if we're compositing this down onto a blue surface or a yellow surface or something, that'll start bleeding through as orange. So we have a Decontaminate Colors right here that will wash the red background out of her hair. So do you notice the difference now? I'll turn it on and off. That's with the red, and that's without the red. Right? So this is in CS5. You guys have this right now at your disposal. And so you can dump this out to a new layer with a layer mask or just a new layer. You can create a whole new document with a layer mask, and then you can actually tell Photoshop to remember your settings so the next time you come through, you'll be able to do that. And so now, you can see we can put her on any background. So we can do that with photos, but we can also do it with videos as well. Cool? How are we feeling?
That was great.
All right. So just to show you guys one more, I know you're probably going out. Let's say, you wanted to go out to DVD, right, from here, or a Blu-ray disc. So you'd pretty much, if I were inside of Premiere here, you'd use the same type of workflow. You'd go Adobe Dynamic Link, and you'd send this to Encore. All right, so you're still doing DVDs, not Blu-rays. So you'd send this whole composition to Encore. So that's going to kick open Encore, and we'll take your whole timeline and drop it in the default DVD timeline. In Encore, you'd go and you'd put together all of your menus, and you can have Photoshop menus and Illustrator menus and create the different states for the buttons in Photoshop and Illustrator and have Encore actively identify which state is, which layer or which state is going to be the over state or the on state or the down state, of your buttons. Link them up to the different places in your video. Now, this is asking me to create a new project. And so do I want it to be Blu-ray or DVD, which standard, NTSC or PAL, where do I want to put it, what are my transcode settings? But I actually don't want to create a new project because I have a pre-existing project that I wanted to show you guys. And it's all related to this medieval, what have you. But as I'm going ahead and pulling open this piece, I wanted to come back for a sec, come back to my, my Huntsville piece. All right, I don't really need to save that out. And so coming back to my Huntsville piece, what if I wanted to export this out, to get this wonderful work of art out to the iPhone, to the iPad, to Android, to the desktop, to the Windows 7 tablet, to all those, to the BlackBerry Playbook, right? So if I wanted to get out to all those different places, the one type of video that's going to be able to access every single one of those types of devices is going to access is H.264, right? And so I don't know why I'm getting a media pending. It should just come right up. But we're not going to wait for that. We can just say File, Export Media. And so it's going to take whatever I have in the active timeline, and it'll kick open the media export dialog and then queue this up in Adobe Media Encoder CS5.5. And so we've got a ton of different presets right out of the box in Premiere Pro that allow you to address not just H.264, but pretty much any export setting that you would want. I'm just getting a little bit of hang here because I've got 20 different applications open. Hopefully none of them is going to crash and burn right now. But, this is why you should be running on a big, powerful tower and not on a dinky laptop like I am. Although, even if you are, it's good to kind of segment your workflow a little bit so that you don't run into performance issues, right? Load it up with as much RAM as you can, have a fast processor, and, if you can afford to have one of those kick-in video cards, I definitely recommend it for video work. So the only reason that I brought this Encore project, this DVD project, in is because I wanted to show you that you can export this all out not just as a DVD or a Blu-ray, you can also export it to Flash. And one of the advantages of exporting it to Flash is that when you do that, that speech-to-text metadata that we transcribed in our project is actually going to come through and be searchable inside of Flash. So I'll just show you really quick. I come into Bridge and just have a look in my final projects here. Let's see. So if I come into Encore and have a look at the export, if I were to export that as a web DVD, right, it's going to open it up. Now it says Firefox, but what I really want to open it up in is Chrome. So hopefully it'll start doing that. So are there any, while my system kind of catches up, are there any questions I can help answer?
No, I can do that. That's good.
All right. So apologies for the lagging computer here. I'm just going to take Photoshop actually and close it because I think that's being a bit of a resource hog right now as I try and go through the demo. But if you guys hadn't told me that you hadn't seen the brush, I would have had it loaded up beforehand. The refine edge dialog, I would have brought that up because yeah, that's a big one. That's definitely one of the standout features in Photoshop CS5, and probably one of the most popular features that I go around showing because it applies across industries. It basically applies anywhere. Oh dear, I'm really locking up here. Let's see. I'm gonna get any play. All right. Well, so while we're waiting to see that that searchable DVD that we made, here's the export settings that I would get straight out of Premiere. And again, we would be looking to export as H.264 because we want to go out to the iPad, iPhone, Windows 7, the desktop, the tablets, the Android devices. And so H.264 is going to be your best choice, but as you can see, we can export this out as an MXF file, as a DPX, if you guys, for God knows why, you'd want to print it to celluloid. But if you did, you'd export it as DPX or QuickTime, PNG sequence, whatever. And down here in the presets, you'll see that we have just a ton of different presets that are optimized for YouTube, for mobile devices, NTSC, HD, and the particular devices that we want to try and target. So with that, I could go have a look and make sure that the metadata that I'm exporting here is actually, that is associated with this clip is also exported to my encoded video, so that encoded video is searchable. But I'm not going to open up that dialog box right now. So now that it's preparing it and queuing it up to be exported, it's going to kick open the Adobe Media Encoder. But while we're opening up the Media Encoder, I'm just going to flip back to Photoshop and try and quit, and then show you that wonderful project. Oh, it did open up Firefox. That's why we're having such problems, because Firefox has been a real resource hog. So all those different export settings, they're updated every time there's an update on the Adobe Update Manager, which you guys probably get every once in a while. I mean, I'm sure you get it for Acrobat, but you would get that for all of the different Adobe applications as well. So those presets are updated every time there's an update to Premiere Pro. And we actually just released one of those. It's not a features update. It's more just like a, fixing bugs, stability, security, type of update that you'll occasionally get in your Adobe Update Manager. And so those presets are there. Put your blocks of instruction. Hold on. One sec. Let me see what that question is. Yeah, so you guys may not, while I'm waiting for everything to spin up here, and again, I'm sorry for the performance issues here. What I'm going to bring you to is a website called Adobe TV. So let's just go to tv.adobe.com. And this is where you're going to take everything that I'm showing you today, and you're going to take it to the next level, especially around the interactive, right? So there is stuff here, everything you wanted to know about what's new in CS5.5. I mean, I've really just taken you into the video parts here, but I mean, you can go product by product and say, let's say you really want a deep dive in Flash, you really want a deep dive in Dreamweaver. So I'll click on Flash Professional here just to give you, an idea of what's available. And there are multiple shows around Flash. It's not just, Learn Flash Professional. And you can come in. This is all free. We used to offer, DVDs that came along with the training, but these have taken the place of the DVDs. Flash training with Paul Trani, that's really good. There's developer events these will be like hour, 2 hour long, deep dives, Flash camps that are recorded. So there's a lot to know and a lot to see here. And that's just around Flash. I mean, you can keep going through all of the different tools. And so I want to recommend Adobe TV as a great resource. It's not, it will take you to a certain level, without having to go to an exterior trainer or something like that. So here's the Adobe Media Encoder, and the only reason I brought up the Media Encoder here was to show you that we can mess with those presets here inside of the Media Encoder as well. So whatever you set in Premiere, you don't have to have your hard set on. You can also set up watch folders, which I really like. Let's say I've got a bunch of Premiere projects that I want to get running overnight, but I don't want to open up Premiere and set them to go individually here in the queue. So I could just set up a watch folder, put it right here on my desktop, call it, I don't know, Bob. And with the watch folder Bob, I'd say any file that happens to go in there, say it's an FTP folder, it's a network folder, and you've got a bunch of different people dropping clips or Premiere projects in there, you could say anything that goes into that network folder, I want it to encode to H.264 for YouTube widescreen or for the iPad 640 by 480, and output it to the output folder inside of Bob, or re-output it to another FTP location or something like that, or somewhere else on the network. So setting up a watch folder, that's something that's new in the Adobe Media Encoder, which is what we have launched here. It's a separate little encoding apparatus. Traditionally, you'd have to use like Sorensen Squeeze or something like that. So yeah, this is a nice consideration when you're doing batch encodes of multiple different types of video. So let's say, for example, we encoded my wonderful work of art, the Redstone video, and I'm actually just going to quit Premiere and quit After Effects so we have some more resources to work with in the Dreamweaver piece. All right, so let's go ahead and quit Encore and quit Audition. Sorry you couldn't hear the video. It really does work. It's not just smoke and mirrors. It works really well, actually, kind of astoundingly so. Oh, right, I wanted to show you that I'll open this with Chrome because Chrome is just giving me better performance. I'll just show you this searchable DVD really quick that was put out to Flash. So we're going to open this with Chrome. Let's have a look. So here's that interactive DVD, but it's playing in the browser in Flash, right? Nice. So we've done all of our programming and everything. If I go ahead and play the program, so here's the regular program that I got from Dynamic Link straight out of Premiere. And down here, you'll notice that on the bottom right, there's a little search button that when I click, and let's say I want to search for, I don't know, I know he talks about, he uses the word young somewhere, or no, he uses the word child, right? When you were a child. So first of all, there are titles that are based on that speech-to-text metadata, and it's also searchable, because I know that he says, when you were a child, you sat as all children sit. So if I click on that index, it brings me straight to the point where he is saying those words. So again, using that speech-to-text metadata is going to be really important, because when you come into Encore after exporting out your final project and you make it a Flash, now this is not going to be in the DVD or Blu-ray features. This is only if you create a Flash-based presentation. But I mean, that can really assist with accessibility, and also it's using those closed captions that are created, in that DVD project. Yes, in Premiere Pro. You got it. So now that we have, let's come on back for a second, because now that we have exported that wonderful, project that I did at Redstone, that I can preview right here inside of Bridge. Notice that I'm in Bridge, and here's like kind of the final project that I can preview and scrub. And I made one, I just used an iPhone and an iPad preset. And so here's my iPad preset. Let's actually take the iPhone one, and let's go ahead and copy it and put it in I'm going to go to my desktop, in my DEA folder, in my demo folder, right, in Dreamweaver. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to go to my desktop and drop this in my DEA website. I'm just going to paste it right in there, right, because this is where we're going to start our DEA website and drop in some HTML5 video. So coming on over into Dreamweaver, let's just hide all the others. All right, so Dreamweaver CS5.5, again, remember, we're optimizing this for HTML5, for CSS3, and for mobile experiences. So one of the big challenges with mobile video is that some devices support Flash, some devices don't, but almost all of the devices that are out there support the HTML5 video tag, which is a very simple tag, and I'll show you how we can drop in an HTML5 video really quickly. And that H.264 video that I made is just going to go straight into the video tag there. The first thing I'm going to do, actually, before I even create a new page, is I'm going to create a new site. So I can say right up here on the upper left, I'm just going to create a new site. I'm going to call it DEA, and I'm going to find a good folder for that. That's in my output folder, DEA website. There we go. I'll go ahead and click Choose, and I'll click Save. Now, if you've been using Dreamweaver for a while, you're like, how was that so easy? The new site dialog used to be really complex, and that's something that we thought a lot about, and we wanted to make it simpler for our customers to just create sites in Dreamweaver. So it's just that 1-2 process. And now I'm just going to say File New to create my home page. I've got a ton of different CSS starter pages, but the one that I'm going to look at is the HTML5 one down here. And we can work on a 2-column or 3-column layout, and we're going to get not just a bunch of lorem ipsum text when we create this, but we actually get instructions on how to use the CSS starter page. So if you're still kind of unfamiliar with CSS, this instructions, the instructions in here are actually going to help you, do your work and learn CSS a little bit more. So a few things that we'd want to accomplish on this page, kind of getting it ready. One would be, first of all, we don't like that this navigation and that this sidebar is on the right-hand side, so we'd want to move it to the left. So I'm going to come down on my tag inspector and just grab that entire sidebar, and notice that I've got the whole thing selected. And my CSS styles panel that I have open on the right-hand side, you'll notice that we have a bunch of rules associated with that sidebar, and here are all of the properties. So one of the properties is float right, and you'll notice what that means is that this sidebar floats to the right of whatever it's next to. So we actually want to make it float to the left, so we can just say float left, and you'll notice that now it's floating over to the left-hand side. So that's just using a regular CSS property of floating. So now we're going to come up to our header and just grab the entire header in our tag selector down at the bottom left. And we're actually going to notice that the background color is not exactly what we'd like it to be, that ugly green. Well, let's make it kind of a nicer blue. So I can right-click in the summary here, and I can say Go to Code, or I can come into my background here and I can code that individually, or I can just go to Code right here. And now that brings up the CSS for this page right here in my code. But I don't really memorize, I don't go about memorizing hex colors, so I can just right-click in the code view and say Code Hint Tools Color Picker, and I can go in and just, choose whatever color I want for that background. And let's see, I happen to like this color a little bit better, that kind of dark blue. Let's refresh to see how that looks. Yeah, that actually looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and copy, right? If I just copy that color, and now if I come over to my logo and I want to also, give that a little bit better color, let's see. The background color here for this is going to be the same. I can just paste that right in, and now the background color is going to be the same as well. Now, you'll notice that we have a little placeholder logo that's 180 by 90. Let's say we wanted to put the DEA's logo in there instead. So I'd come down to my Properties panel, grab this little folder. Actually, before I do this, I'm just going to save it. Just do a Command S and say index.html. All right, now we've saved it. Come down to our folder and have a look over here. Well, let's actually go back to Bridge for a second and find where my DEA folder, where is that DEA seal.png, right? Now this has a transparent background. I'm going to go ahead and copy it and drop it in my website so that it's part of the website itself. And there's my DEA seal.png. Yes, the pigeon. Very nice, right? So that will drop right in there, and that is really just enormous. So I'm going to come down here and just call it 180 by 90. And so that's actually, let's make it 180 by 180 or 90 by 90. All right, so there we go. There's our lovely little logo, and we'll call this DEA Adobe Intro. And now we're going to drop that video that we encoded with Adobe Media Encoder right on in here. Let's go ahead and hit enter. And so dropping this video in, yeah, we could go in and do it with code, but I am kind of lazy, so I'm going to use what's called the Widget Browser. And so the Widget Browser looks out onto the internet. It launches up this specific little application here called the Widget Browser. Nice little fun Air application that ships with Dreamweaver. And so you'll see that I have a library of widgets that I've pulled out. If I go onto the Adobe Exchange and it signs me in, there's a huge library of different widgets that are rated, and you can see how many people are actively using them. But I pulled a bunch of those widgets in, and one of the widgets that I pulled in from the Adobe Exchange is the HTML5 video player. And so here's what it looks like. You've got a little playback skin. You can have a look at the code right here. You'll notice that it's actually embedding some CSS and JavaScript for the styling and for that playback skin there. And so I can save that widget file out to a directory, or instead of doing all that coding myself, I can just come right into this spot where I want to drop it in Dreamweaver and say Insert Widget. And notice that it knows all the different widgets that I have. I'm going to drop in the HTML5 video player widget. I'm going to say OK. It's going to drop it in. And now I've got a little bit of work to do. So first of all, it dropped all of those script resources up in the header. So now I've got all that JavaScript and CSS ready to go. But I need to customize it because, as you'll see, we are targeting not just H.264, but we're also targeting the OGV and WebM video flavors, which are really just considerations for specific browsers. WebM is a mobile Chrome specific. So if you know that you're going onto Chrome for mobile, then you would want to be encoding to WebM. If you know that you're encoding to Firefox for mobile, then you'd encode to OGV. But we're just going to get rid of those. And instead of going out to this PDN, we're actually just going to go out to our local resource. I'm going to go ahead and click Browse. Notice that there's code hinting in my video tag. Yeah, no, you don't actually have to know code. All I did was grab this video object and notice that is there a universal code for all browsers? No, that's the problem right now. Is that for Flash, it used to be you just dump a Flash video in here and it would run everywhere. But now, the world's gotten a little bit more complicated. So H.264 MP4 is the most universally accepted wrapper, but your mileage is going to vary. That's why the video widget had 3 different options for you, but you could put in 6 different options to make sure that your video is seen everywhere. I'm just going to grab this MP4 that we kicked out. When I inserted the widget, Christy, it wrote all of that code for me, so that was nice. But I had to edit that code a little bit to make sure that it was only putting in the H.264 video. And notice that Dreamweaver gave me a little bit of code hinting there, asking me to browse for the resource that I was looking for. And now that I browsed for it, it's just dropped it in. And so if I wanted to give it a poster frame, right, I could actually, I'm going to go look for, poster.png on my system. Let's just have a look really quick. Right, so poster.png is going to be a file that I want to put on my site. Let's go ahead and put that in my DEA website page. And this is just a very small poster frame of the first frame so that when this page loads, it'll know what it's supposed to look like. So I'm going to put in, and notice again, I've got that code hinting. Dreamweaver knows that I'm going to browse for something, so it just allows me to hit enter and go in and grab that poster.png frame. Right, there we go. I don't need to give it a duration, and I can let it preload auto. But notice that instead of putting in a Flash video widget, I just put in a video tag, right? If you do any HTML at all, you'll know that just putting in a video tag, I mean, that's really, really simple. That's all the code we need to drop in a video. Of course, the playback skin that we wanted to have on top of it requires some associated files, right? These JavaScript files and this UI CSS file. But if you just wanted the baseline, if you just wanted to get rid of all of those associated skinning files and just drop in a video, that's all the code that you would need right there, right? Pretty nice. So all I'm going to do is just say file save. And here again is where Dreamweaver tells me, yep, you've got a bunch of JavaScript files and a few graphics files that we're going to put on the root of your site that you'll need to upload. And now if I click Live View in Dreamweaver, this is actually going to render my website live using WebKit, which is the rendering engine behind Safari and Chrome. And so there's my HTML5 video with my playback skin, and this is going to play back pretty much on any browser that supports H.264, which is most of them, and more importantly, it's going to play back on those Apple devices and definitely those Windows devices because they support the HTML5 video tag. Right? So there you go, and so I just wanted to show you guys that the proof is in the pudding here. I actually have an iPad running mobile Safari queued up to show. Hold on one sec. Let me go out to my, so this is live looking at my iPad here. And so this is just looking at, I put these files, I did this for NSA last week, so that's the NSA logo up there. And so I just put this up on my personal web server to show that this is an iPad 1, and it's playing right off the internet, and it works, without a Flash plugin. All right? So really quick, since I know that we're very short on time, let me see how the questions are coming. I know we didn't get to creating mobile apps with Flash, so I'm sorry about that. I think we, yes, this is an iPivo camera that I was using. So I'm sorry we didn't get to building mobile apps with Flash, but what I did want to encourage you guys to do is to take a shot at Adobe TV. Because, there's, multi-screen best practices, on-device debugging, accessing the phone. This is a great class, the Flash training with Paul Trani. He's a good friend of mine, and he'll walk you through everything you need to know about creating interactive applications with Flash that will go all the way out to your Android device, to the Windows device, to the Flash player. There's just there's a lot to know, and luckily we have some great free training resources available on Adobe TV to help you out with that.